Hi, Dive Talk World. I am about as excited as I've ever been, and I get pretty excited about this particular pros roundtable. Now, I'm going to do something in this roundtable, Edd and Mehdi, that's very, very difficult for me. I'm going to shut the blank up because Dive Talk World, you, in my opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion. I'm old. I don't care if you agree with me. You're entitled to your opinion. I think I have two of, if not the single two best dive propulsion vehicle users and instructors in the world. And that is what we're talking about tonight, because I get bombarded, guys, with a lot of people that think they know how to use a dive propulsion vehicle, just like I did when I came to you guys. You could tell them about me. You don't have to worry about embarrassing me. I know what I was and I know what I became. Now, I'm going to ask them a bunch of questions and then I'm just going to go quiet. And I want everybody out there to just take this as constructive, positive advice, because we want diving to grow. And using a dive propulsion vehicle absolutely fits the theme of what I believe diving should be: fun and safe. It can't just be fun, though. Okay. And that's why I have these two on. So here we go. Question number one: do we need a certification? So, Edd and Mehdi, why do you believe it's essential for scuba divers to even take a separate course to get certified for using a DPV? I mean, couldn't we just incorporate that into a standard scuba course, pull a trigger, hook it up and go?
Well, the short answer is we don't need one. There's no scuba police, even though a lot of people think they are. There just isn't any scuba police. There's no laws. So, but in my humble opinion, the same reason, and everybody that knows me and has heard of my training knows that one of the things I've always been famous for is the why behind the how. I don't ever teach anybody how to do something without teaching them why they're doing it. And the why behind the how simply is you don't need a cave cert either. You can go cave diving. There's no law that says you can't. You just swim right in, and chances are really good you're going to swim right out. And that's fantastic. But as we all know, anybody that like you that have interviewed me multiple times on body recoveries and rescues, it's because it doesn't always go that way. And unfortunately, it doesn't always go that way for certified cave divers either. But as far as a DPV cert card, why do we need one? Well, a good friend of mine from Texas, Larry Hack, he came, and hopefully Larry doesn't get mad about the story, but he already got crucified online already. So he's a very good diver. He's been doing this a really long time. I met him 20 something years ago when he was just doing his, I think he was intro at the time. And we have become really, really good friends. Well, one day he was here for a week of vacation with a guy. I don't even remember the guy's name, and we're probably not, I wouldn't say it if I knew it. But they went to scooter Jackson Blue. And I don't think Larry had ever scootered with him before. And Larry was behind this guy, and he had his video camera on. And they showed going right at the first tee at Jackson Blue, and this guy was smoking that cave out. And people just crucified Larry. What were you doing? What was that guy doing? He was rude. So, one, he was putting his life in danger. Two, he was putting Larry's life in danger. The problem is when he's up front hitting that trigger, everything was crystal clear in front of him. I don't know that he even knew it was zero vis behind him. And Larry was close enough that he could see it coming, but he wasn't in zero vis until they went to exit. But this guy just got crucified online. and Larry got crucified online. It wasn't Larry's fault. He didn't know. What's Chris Richardson's favorite saying? You don't know what you don't know.
What you don't know.
So he didn't know that this guy was horrible. And that guy thought he was great. And everybody sitting at home, and I run into this all the time in body recoveries and rescues. And when the story hits the internet, all the armchair quarterbacks, hey, you know what I would have done? Do you know what I would have done?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're all pretty smart people. We're all sitting at home, and if you're given a problem, you're going to work it through it in a really intelligent manner. That's called cognitive thinking.
Yep.
Problem is, when I'm stressed, that cognitive thinking, not me per se, but people in general, when they're stressed, when the shit hits the fan and things go horribly wrong and it's now life or death, that big picture thinking that they were so good at, that they were so smart at, went right out the window, and heavy stress, not managed, turns to panic turns to dead divers, turns to Ed has to go to work. So do we need a cert card? Absolutely not. If people were responsible, if people actually were hard on themselves. Hey, Mehdi, when you turn that corner, you dust it up a little bit. Well, I'm going to work on that. And we just strive to get better. We're hard on ourselves. We're hard on each other. We're hard on our friends. We're hard on our students. Why? Because we care. But what people don't realize that are going in and doing this is, what about the other people in there? There was a guy, this was probably 2009, and he was a really good diver, very competent. And I had told him about a series of T's way back at about 4,400 feet. He scootered back. Now, he did not have near enough stage bottles for it. He had two 121s on, and I think he had a single stage. Well, that wasn't near enough, but that was the gas plan he chose. And there was a guy in from California with three of his buddies. They had all just bought brand new scooters. And when he got done with his stuff way in the back, wow, I went a little bit over. I'm pretty low on gas. I got to get out of here. And he scootered a couple hundred feet, and all of a sudden he scootered right into complete zero viz. These guys had blown that cave up. So what about him? He didn't do anything wrong, yet now his life is in jeopardy because, well, A, he didn't choose enough gas, but most people don't choose enough gas they choose enough gas to swim out if their scooter fails. They don't choose enough gas to swim out in zero visibility online at a snail's pace. So, is it required? Some caves, not many. Should it be? I'm not a real proponent of big government. I'm not a proponent of let's make everybody do what I want to do. That's just not my thing. But unfortunately, a lot of people have really big egos and they think they're way better than they are until we see them and they're not. So I don't know. It's not for me to decide, but I have my opinions. I've had people that say, I just want a scooter Jenny and I need a DPV card. So let's do this. And then all of a sudden, wow, that's way harder than I thought. That's way more entailed than I thought. And a lot of divers, including instructors, don't have near the fundamental skills that they think they do. I just finished the cave CCR or a CCR fundamentals class the other day for a guy who had finished full cave. Then he bought a JJ rebreather and he got certified on that. Then he got his 150 hours in. Then he went and did a cave CCR class. And then he called me and said, wow, my fundamentals, I don't think are where they should be. He came in, did a 2-day CCR fundamentals class and went, holy cow, I didn't think I was that bad. And when we watched the video review, he said, I'm going to go home. I'm going to work on a lot of stuff and I'm going to come back and do this again. So anyway,
well, that's a really good point, and this will lead to my next question. And Mehdi, I want you to take this question. If you're in a quiet place, so
I
we can
just wanted
hear
to
you.
chime in quickly on the first question. You know, Ed
Sure.
was talking about cave certification, but if we think about the certification that people are not taking and still diving, the equipment, for example, like dry suit and side mounts. There is so many people that, you know, oh, do you have a dry suit certification? Do you have a side mount certification? No, I'm self-taught. And I could point you the diver that don't get the certification in the water. It shows. Yeah. So yes, it's easy. You can make it work. But as Ed said, when the shit is the fan, that's where the training kick in. And if you didn't have that training, it shows. You know, I've seen so many people diving side mounts. So yeah, I'm good at side mounts with their cylinder hanging below them or all the way upside. DPV diver, like with stages and second stage pretty much dragging in the prop and free flowing behind them, being absolutely clueless. That's where you recognize those people. I'm pretty sure there is people, as Ed said, you know, everything's fine until it's fine, but when it's not, well, that's where the training kicks in. And that's where I think having a DPV certification, a side mount certification, dry suit certification, prepare you for those events where you need the training to get out of there alive. Yeah, so that was my take on the first one.
One last thought on that.
Yep.
I agree with most of what Mehdi said, but the problem is a certification is just a piece of paper. Now, and a class is just a class. What is in the class? What's the content? Who's the instructor?
Exactly what I was going to get into.
Because I remember a certain person involved in this talk today that did a DPV class before he came to see me.
Yep.
And we're just told if I screw this up, would he please correct me? But as I remember you telling me, the instructor said, you're going to tow Gus, and then Gus is going to tow you, and then we're going to do this. And you said, how do we do that?
Exactly.
That's what I'm here to learn.
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm here telling you I don't know what.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought you told me that you were told that's not how this works. I'm here to observe. You're already supposed to know how to do this. I'm just to observe. Is that somewhere in the ballpark of what happened?
I mean, it was somewhat like that, but you guys touched on something, and now I want to get into the next question. You see, it's not the problem out there is that people are not willing to accept that they need to learn. They actually believe, for some reason, that they can do things, and they fight it. They're defensive. The one thing that if I'm good at one thing, I am willing to come in and say, I'm here. I need help. And I know you can give it to me. But if you don't give it to me, I'm not going to be able to show you that I can do anything decent because I don't know how. And I know there's a reason for it. Now, Mehdi, this is what we're going to get into. This question directs to you. And the reason why is you guys were really patient with me. It does not come easy for me. It doesn't. I mean, maybe some people it does. For me, I have to work at it, and I'm willing to put in the work. And I spent a week working my ass off. If you recall, Mehdi, right? And it was a game changer. And what were you looking for? What skills? So people understand, rather than just say a DPV class, that doesn't mean a lot to people. What skill assessment specifically were you looking for in a diver, not to pass, but I love what you guys say. Why did you let me believe I earned my DPV certification? Are there common mistakes and red flags that come in that you see right away, and then you say, look, These are the things that we're going to go through, skill assessment, and why. Because now you can add value to maybe, well, this is what we mean by you don't really know what you're doing.
Well, first, before Mehdi answers that, let's tell the people what happened. So you came from a DPV class, where apparently she was not there to teach you, but to observe you, and you didn't know what to do. You hadn't been taught that yet, so obviously you failed the class. So you called me. We did a 2-day DPV class. My standard DPV class is 2 days. First day is all open water, and I'm not going to explain the entire class, but we do 3 types of swims with the scooter, emulating something has occurred during the dive. And then we get onto maneuvering, then we get onto tow number 1, tow number 2, tow number 3, then to air shear tow, then to running line, then how to go through zero visibility with a DPV, blah, blah, blah. So, and you guys did not pass. Basically, it was the fundamental skills weren't there. We were not able to get through everything that we needed to get through. Then when we tried to do the dive at Jackson Blue in the caves. The first day is all open water to make sure that you can do all this stuff before. It just didn't happen. And you wanted to keep going. I didn't have any time. I had a completely booked schedule. Mehdi was just finishing his DPV instructor for Cave Adventures, but wasn't certified yet. But he's excellent in fundamentals. So I said, you guys need work on your fundamentals and getting this stuff squared away before we finish this. So what was it, Mehdi? 3 days?
4 days.
4 days. So first it was Gus came back because Woody was busy. And then Gus did the 4 days with you on fundamental skills, going over practicing all the stuff, because you weren't teaching him, you weren't an instructor yet on the DPV. And you worked with him. And then I had a day between this class and this class, and Gus said, can we do it? And I said, yes. And I thought, okay, we only have 1 day. And he just flew through that class because Mehdi just did an outstanding job and got him ready. And it was just boom, 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 boom. And it made it really easy on me. Then Gus called Woody and said, wow, this was amazing. And then Woody called me and said, hey, I want to do this too. And of course, I still didn't have any time. So Mehdi did the same thing with Woody. And and back to Woody's point, did he earn it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man, I worked so hard. But the thing is, everybody out there, it can be fun at the same time. Mehdi and I were smiling. We were happy. This was not like
for 4
a torture
days.
session. For 4 days, I actually felt great because I was learning to do it right. And the thing is, when it finally clicks, when you're pulling the DPV in the right angle, when you're maintaining trim, and you all of a sudden you feel it, it actually makes the diving easier. When you don't have the fundamentals, it's a frigging hard. That's the problem. It actually, they're trying to make it easier by giving you the fundamentals, and just takes practice.
And
for me,
it's like what he said, it's just effortless diving. Once you know how to make the scooter do everything. I see so many people, they're just working that scooter.
Yeah.
I spent $10,000 on a scooter, so I didn't have to work. I'm lazy. I didn't want to work. So I want the scooter to earn its keep. I want it to pay for itself. I want it to do all the work.
So I remember, I remember, and then I'll let you answer it. I do remember saying, Mehdi, okay, you know, you're nervous. You're going to be nervous. You're going in front of Edd. I mean, I'm nervous. So when you're nervous, you may not be at your absolute best, but Mehdi told me, you are ready now. It took him a while. He won't say that if you're not ready. There's no way he will tell you that. I said, okay, then let's go. And
well, you got to remember also, you know,
I carry one card. I always carry one single cert card. This one. That's the only one I carry. I treasure it.
And you got to remember for that, Woody, you know, I was still working on my DPV instructor. So Ed put his trust in me that I can train you. So if I tell you you're ready, it's because I think you're ready. I don't want you to go and flap around in front of Ed, because then it's going to reflect back on me too. Yeah. So yeah, you are ready. So back to your question. The thing I'm looking into a diver won't necessarily be a skill, but it linked back to what you said when you introduced that question. It's a state of mind. That's what I'm looking. I'm looking at students that are prepared, that made their homework, made some reading, are willing to learn, willing to hear me tell, yeah, okay, listen, this wasn't the best. Maybe we should do it this way. Willing to listen and be open-minded and seek training. That's the first thing I'm looking into a student. And I tell my students that come prepared like that all the time. I'm like, yeah, thank you for, you know, being willing to come and learn. You come to us for a reason, because we provide good training. But you need to be ready to get that training. Yeah. So that's the first thing I'll be looking into a diver. Then skill-wise, while we mentioned fundamental skills a few times already, what are fundamental skills? First thing first, a balanced rig. And if you remember right, Woody, what did we do the first day? We went in the water. We didn't even take the DPV with us. We just spent an hour to get your rig balanced. I spent half a day modifying Gus' rig with Patrick at the shop, adding weight there, moving it by a millimeter, just trying to get him to be able to stay perfectly neutrally buoyant without flinching a muscle for 10, 15 minutes. What comes second? Neutral buoyancy. Yeah, you need to understand neutral buoyancy. Then a good finning technique. If you have those few stuff in your base, the way I describe it to my student, I take diving like a bit like a house of cards. You need a strong, solid base in order to build on top of it. If you don't have a solid base, then you add cave, then you add DPV, then you add rebreather. Eventually, the house of cards is going to crumble. And unfortunately, crumble in cave diving or diving in general quite often mean death. So we can't have that. So that would be the start for me to take anyone on any class, willing to learn, positive attitude, and good solid fundamentals. We can work for anything from that. Yeah. Even without the fundamentals, as long as you get the right attitude. That for me. Red flags would be, you know, those nose-up divers that know better than you. When you make a comment, make a remark, they always have an excuse. It's something else. It's never their fault. It's always some argument that's gonna try to diminish the mistake they've made, and those will be big red flag for me.
And you know, man, this is great. It's really coming out better than I thought. Listen, we are loaded up with some extremely complex gear because we're super fragile, and we need a rebreather, which is already not, it's harder. You have flow in a cave blowing you all over, and you're going into some tight spaces that could blow out the whole cave. And now you're adding on top of it a very powerful machine that can get you really fast, really far. And if you have this sense of false confidence because everything went well, in other words, you made it out, you got lucky. That's all you got. You got lucky. But you could have killed other people as well in doing that. And it's okay to go through a class like what they put you through and not have those skills, but acknowledge that you don't, because you're going to come out and feel so much better after you do. So you don't end up dying or killing somebody else. And this is the why. And the other thing that you guys do is something that's totally different. And I have been ridiculed about it since your class, and I've been holding on to this, okay? Ripped apart, argued, and I stop. I don't have the authority, and I don't have the right to argue with him.
Is it gas sharing?
Yes.
Yeah. I was sure that was gas there.
Mehdi, yes. How did you know?
Guys, I need to pause for 1 second. Yes, sir.
They are,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
over and over, I give them the why because you taught me the why.
The lady
right?
told me to
I
park
love the
here. I came
blocking of the
earlier to
hand.
ask. I'm on
Put
a
them
work
behind you.
call. Am I in the way?
So
Hang on 1 second. Mehdi, you got to go on mute.
That's mine.
can you just
If
mute
it's in
his?
the way, let me know and I can move it
I
back there.
can't mute his. I can't mute his.
Okay.
So
Thank you, sir.
I want
It's okay. No
you
worries at
to
all.
explain. I want you to explain why over and over. I don't know how many times you guys had me do that skill, and I would put them behind me. I block that hand. I put that reg up. I climb my leg over. Why in the world would I put them behind me? I mean, what if I just keep going and they're not there anymore? Tell them, get rid of them, get them off my back.
For one thing, around 30 years ago when I was first taught DPV, we talked about air sharing, but we never did it. And I was taught, oh, well, I'm just going to give you a regulator and we're going to scooter side by side. Well, that's just not going to happen. Just imagine the drag on a 7-foot hose stretched across, and we're zooming along at 100, 150, nowadays 200, 250, 300 feet a minute. It just isn't going to happen. It's going to rip that out of your mouth. The guy's going to die. Plus, what I teach in my full cave classes, well, from cavern all the way to full cave on air sharing, is you can't trust the out of gas diver to do anything correctly. Sure, in class, it's like, here you go, sir. Why, thank you, kind sir. Shall we exit? Oh, by all means, after you. And that's not how it happens. And they're stressed out of their mind. And there's two divers. We'll just call them Tom and Terry. There was 4 of them that came down from Missouri and Arkansas every year. And they would go, I mean, they'd been cave diving forever. Tom had the end of the line at Ruby Doo for decades. Anyway, very good divers, very experienced divers. And one day the shit hit the fan way in the back of Jackson Blue. They had a problem. They got separated in a zero viz situation. One of them had to, Terry ran out of gas. Tom gets him squared away, and now they got to tow out. Well, they hadn't been taught. So they think the out of gas diver should be in the front. When they got out, Tom said they had to finally ditch the scooter. And he said, Ed, I thought he was going to kill me. He couldn't do anything. And that's the reality. It isn't about class. In class, we're fine. We got our big picture thinking. We're on the top of our game. It isn't a stressful situation. You can't, I've been in 4 real life air shares. They've all been, and I tell all this to every one of my classes, they've all been very violent. They've all been over with very quickly, and most people will not survive. That's why I have that special way I teach an air share where you're grabbing the person. Nobody else teaches that unless I taught them or somebody I taught them. A couple of people have heard about it and do it now. That's great. I'm happy. It's not like, hey, that's mine and you stole it from me. No, I think every instructor in the world should be doing this. But anyway, back to the DPV. So you can't trust the out of gas diver to do anything. So you want that person towing you home? I sure as hell don't. And well, you can just leave him. He's clipped to his scooter. We have everybody in class has to have a tow leash with a bolt snap on it attached to their scooter. So once I get you on gas, I clip that to my crotch strap. I step over. You know the drill, Woody. You had to do it over and over and over and over and over and over.
Yes, I did.
And then I'm towing them out. Let's say that person wanted to unclip. I guarantee you, I'll put $1,000 on anybody here, anybody out in the audience, anybody's out in the audience's friend, their friend's best friend, the best cave diver they know. Let me tow them out and you unclip yourself while I'm towing you.
Nope.
You get the cash. It isn't gonna
No way.
It isn't gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
One of the rescues I did in 2013. He was on a scooter. I towed him out. He was nearly unconscious. He could do nothing. nothing. He couldn't even stay horizontal. I had to keep stopping and straightening him out, and off we went. He could do nothing. Is that the person you want towing you out when your life depends on it? You're damn right you don't. So I've been criticized about it too. And every person that's actually done it properly and goes, wow, there's no real other way to do this. So they can criticize all they want. I don't care. I've never even advertised that I teach. Not once in the decades that I've been doing this. So, but I'm busy 24 hours a day. We turn away students because we can't get to them all. So,
well, I talk about you guys pretty much like every episode. I'm sorry, I can't help it.
So that's the why behind the how is when I come up and get you gas, you don't have to do anything. You could fall asleep breathing that regulator. I'm towing you out and you're safe. And you're tucked right between my legs and you aren't getting away. Unless you pull your Z knife out and cut it, and then you're just committing suicide anyway. There's nothing I can do about that. So
there is a few controversial thing that we teach at Cave Adventurer. That's one of them. And I think when you said the ego need to get out of the sport because it's gonna kill people, I think that's kind of touched the subject a little bit. And all the people that criticize have that too big of an ego to realize, okay, yes, there is a better way. I can modify my way to teach better. When I came to Edd, I think I was already a good diver and a good instructor. Correct me if I'm wrong, Edd. But I think I exponentially exploded on my instructing level since I've been teaching for Edd. And I'm not saying that because he's my boss and my friend. I stayed and decided to work for him because there is a lot of things that he said that he came with or implements that do make sense, that make my teaching safer, my students safer, and give tools to my students to survive an event like running out of gas on a DPV. Yeah, as Edd said, I will never, when I think about it, never let a person that is I've just been in distress, definitely not thinking clearly because they're still going over a fairly traumatic event, make the decision to lead me out on a big dive, on a big cave, or any open water dive for that matter. And that's just one of the skills. I know that's related to DPV, but there is many we can talk about that I strongly believe as an instructor makes much more sense to teach than the random shit we find in the book and we've just been following for years without putting two cents of thought into it. And that's one of the skills.
Exactly. And the thing that you guys do, you said it so well. It's completely different when the shit hits the fan than it is in a simulated class. Yep. I have also saved more than one person. It is not easy to do. They are not cooperative. Nope. They're literally they're no longer, at least in the one I did, this guy was like 500 pounds. I'm 138. That his thinking was over. No thinking. Only thing he was doing was out of control, floundering on his back, slowly dying on a rebreather with shitloads of bubbles coming out of him. Incapable, like an upside down turtle. You are the only way they're going to get out.
Yep.
They're not going to do anything cooperative. Nope. If I run out of air up underwater in a cave, I'm about to die, man. And see, I think that's the problem, and you nailed it. And you thought about, probably because you had to save people, okay, this isn't going to work. I'm not going that way anymore. And it's not an ego thing, everybody. They are trying to tell you in reality, this is going to make it work. I know that now. So with that, I'm kind of going to give you a final thought and question. This is an interesting one. We all get feedback, right? We all get feedback and we all want to evolve. So I'm curious, have you ever gotten such incredible feedback from students that you now incorporate it, or it's even so significant that you've changed something in this DPV class, or frankly, any class, something big, anything in all of the years that you've had a student, yourselves? Have you emerged? Have you evolved? Have you learned something from one of your own students?
I'll go because it's going to be much shorter. At the end of every class, I sit down with my student and I ask them to give me feedback, good or bad. I'm not asking for brown nother because I want my next class to be better. So yes, I constantly evolve. My classes are constantly changing. I'm constantly reading, making research, trying to stay on top of topic like gradient factor and decompression theory and, geology of cave, so I can provide better teaching for my student. And I definitely listen to the good and most importantly, the bad, because I'm a human, I'm not perfect, I make mistake too. And when students give me feedback, I always make sure I incorporate it and make my next class better than the one I just taught.
You know I want to hug you right now, Mehdi.
Me
Just
too.
bad that I haven't dove with you in a while. I mean, if I don't get in
Yeah,
a cave with you
it's been a
soon,
year we haven't
okay,
seen you, Woody. Last time we saw you was
I
at
know.
the Cave Adventurer anniversary.
No, it's terrible.
I know.
I cannot wait to be back there with you again, looking over and just a little fist bump like, is this awesome or what? I can't wait. But
Ed,
what
Ed,
about
Ed,
what about
yeah. Ed, what
So,
about you? Yeah.
yeah, just like Mehdi said, after we're done with classes, I always say I was hard on you this entire time. I do it because I care. I've already signed the paperwork. You've already passed. I can't take it back. So, you know, feel free to say anything. I can't be a better instructor because I tell everybody from the day I started diving, very, very first day I got